All right, we're back again with our baler to do something that everybody always wonders about and doesn't really maybe understand. But I got the book out and we are going to time this baler by the instructions in the book so everybody can see how that works. And we're going to get started on that right after this. Welcome back. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm Ross the Oliver Man. This is the 24T baler that my grandpa bought new. If you weren't in on that story, he went to town and I don't know, he stopped by the Deere store to get parts, and there was a bunch of guys gathered around this baler when it was brand new, and grandpa said, "What's going on?" And they said, well, those were service guys from all over the state, and they had come there to learn how to set up a square baler, make sure everything was in time and it was ready to go to the field. And so grandpa said, well, I'll tell you what, whenever they're done with that, just pull it to my house because I want that exact baler. He said that he figured if they did it, it would probably be exactly right. And that proved to be the case because it ran for years and years and years with absolutely no adjustment of any kind and no problem. So every year, I guess I should back up with the story, but we used it for years and years, no trouble. And then when I was a kid, it started missing knots. And he was not a person who could figure that out on his own, so he called the dealer to come, and they didn't know what they were doing either. The guys came out and all they did was fire the parts cannon at it. They started replacing stuff. They replaced this whole knotter assembly and still could not get it to go. And so grandpa was getting frustrated. Dad ended up buying a used round baler, and so we switched to round baling, no more to square bale. This one sat in the shed. And finally, probably about a dozen years ago or so, I decided that if I was going to have this thing taking up shed room, that it was going to work. Either it was going to work or it was going to get out of here. So what I did, I pulled it out of the shed, looked it all over, tripped it by hand, got out my book like I did just a second ago, followed it through a tying cycle, and I figured out that they were so close, but the crucial piece they missed was to hammer the knife arm to where it was rubbing the bill hook correctly. Modeling the knife arm, as they call it in the book. That's a fancy word for beating it with a hammer. So that is probably a very common issue on square balers, as I have worked on many of them now since getting this one going. But anyway, it's baled for me fairly trouble-free, you know, over the years. But I decided every year I would try to give it some love and make it better than it was. So this year's affair on that deal was a new tire, which we got on, and consequently drilled and tapped that hub for grease fitting, and then replace all the chains. Well, when you take all the chains off, you really need to retime the baler to make sure it's right. I would say I'm probably just like I was, or very close like I was, but I'm not saying that it was perfect before that. You know, it may have not been 100% perfect before, because something else could have happened and somebody could have done whatever. So we're going to take this book. Consequently, I really like this book because they did a good job back in this day of outlining almost everything that could be wrong and how to fix it, and pictures on a lot of the stuff in case you are a visual learner, you know. So we are going to go to the section that talks about timing. See, it even shows you pictures of knots made wrong and what could cause that, different troubleshooting operations, all in your regular old operator's book. So here is the section on timing the baler. Timing is controlled by the main drive chain right there, the feeder drive chain right there, and the knotter drive chain, which is back there. If any of these chains are uncoupled or if parts are removed for servicing, check all timing operations before operating baler. Well, we did exactly that. We removed them and replaced them. Each of the following checks or adjustments should be made as the baler is run by hand through one complete tying cycle. So, I don't want to get my book dirty, but it's also going to be in the way if I don't. Look out. So we're going to turn this by hand, which it's going to go this way. And so we're going to start with the feeder. That's the way they are starting in the book. Place feeder pivot pin in bottom hole of feeder, teeth setup. And it is. That's the way we've run it. Probably got a little slop in it, but hey, that's okay. Turn flywheel by hand counterclockwise until the face of the plunger head on a compression stroke, which is kind of important. See, right now it's on a retracting stroke. Never mind the squawking. Before I baled last time, I tightened up those plunger head wear blocks a little bit, and they're squawking still. I didn't bale enough to really get it where it needs to be. So, it's going to change direction here in a minute. You can see those feeder teeth are going through the bale chamber right now. All right, now we're on a compression stroke. Now we need to move it till the plunger head face, the face of the plunger head, is centered in the front feeder slot. So let's roll her till she's centered in the front feeder. Okay, there's the points. That's not what we want. We want the face. Right about there. This is the face of the plunger head. You can see it's got those points on it, but that's not what we're after. They go by the face. The left-hand edge of the tip of the front feeder tooth should measure 14 1/4 to 16 1/4 inches from the left-hand edge of the front feeder support. So, we're going to take our tape measure from that tooth to the front side of this, and look at that. It's supposed to be 14 1/4 to 16 1/4. And right now we are exactly, well, no, we're actually probably at about 14. And so that would translate to, when we did this, we got off by a tooth, which is highly possible. I mean, I could see that that was the case. So we are going to have to disconnect that chain and then shift her over by a tooth, take this thing. So it's just ever so much over. And I thought that the other day when we were done and I rolled it through a cycle, I thought it was just not quite where it should be, but I wasn't sure by how much. So now the fun game's going to be, where's the connecting link? And it's probably going to be someplace where we can't get to it easy. And yeah, oh yeah, see, it's right there where we can't get to it. So I'm wondering if I roll through a second cycle, if I can get it where it's up in the open, because of the way that it is, So I'm going to roll her around again. All right, I have to get some wrenches to take that idler loose, which also reminded me that I bought bearings for that idler and the other one and what have you. But when my box came of parts, it was pretty hammered. And I'm wondering if they fell out, because I did not get those bearings in this box. So that's a sure bummer. See how the box came apart? Crud. Well, we can always take that off later, because as discussed in our chain video, just loosening the idler isn't going to change the time, as long as it doesn't skip a tooth, So let me grab a wrench to take the idler loose. We'll disconnect the chain. We will jump it by 1 tooth, and I think that will put us in the time we need to be. And actually, there might be enough slack in this chain, I don't know, if I take that idler off, that I might be able to actually not disconnect the chain and just work it around and get that loose. That maybe doesn't make sense to you, but don't worry. It makes sense to me. And that's what we're after. I gotta find someplace you can sit. But I think I got enough slack in this chain that I can actually jump at a tooth and make it go where I want it to go. And I'm going to do that by just going around like this, getting it to jump off of this. That was the wrong way. I brought it the wrong way. But that's okay. I can go back this other way. Now, let me think about that. I might have done it right. However, I gotta do some measuring. Yeah, okay, that's where it needs to be. But I got the slack on the wrong side. So I need to reach down here. All right. See, now my slack is on that side. I really could do without the half link though. Whilst I'm doing this, I think it would make sense to do that. I put it in because the book said to, but now we're back where we were. That's not right. All right, let's just take the chain loose so we can get rid of that half link. I've decided I'm going to get rid of it, which means I need a screwdriver, which means I gotta get in the toolbox here. So, yeah, see, that's tight, but we need to be like this. And I might get that here in a second when I do this operation I'm about to do. Alright, now she's gonna go crazy and fall away probably. Yep. That's fine though. The other day when we did the chains, it would have probably made sense to do the timing right then, but I didn't have time to do that video, and I didn't want to leave the baler in a state where it wasn't anywhere close, you know, because the next guy, if I die, maybe wouldn't understand how to do this. So I thought it would just be nicer to, you know, do the right thing. Doing this the right way. See, I think this is the problem I had the other day, was that I just can't quite get it connected. Let's see if that'll... I'll have to take that idler off, but maybe if I go, I might have to go this way. I need to get my chain tightening tool. I'll have to move the idler to the top again because it ain't right. We're gonna see what we got there though. I think I'm a little too much this time. Yeah, way too much. So I need to jump it around. We need to be between 14 1/4 and 15 1/4. And we went from 14 to 17 1/4. So we need to come back a little bit. I think I'm back where I started. Yep, that's 14. So I went too many. I need to jump one tooth. Can I jump one tooth? I think I... Geez, we're not doing too good. We may end up, what am I trying to say? We may end up doing the main drive chain thing because I don't think I got enough adjustment here. That right there is 14 1/4 without it tight. So that is in spec, you know. All right, so no matter what I do with this big chain, I can only get it to the minimum, which is 14 1/4. You know, I'm sure there's some subjectiveness to how you're looking at the center. I might be off a little bit each time. But for fine adjustments then, means I'm gonna have to jump this one by one tooth in order to get that feeder to move out just ever so slightly more. And since we're doing it the correct way, we might as well do that. But that is also going to mess with our knotter situation, but we're gonna go through that anyway as well. So I have to get, what do I have to do to take this loose? 9/16, take the idler loose, and then a 3/4 to take this carriage bolt loose here. And then we can very carefully move this over. And I think what I got to do is, see, if I go this way, that'll keep moving that thing out. That would be turning this way. So if I just take this and roll it backwards one tooth, it should be the same thing as what I want. But we'll double check and triple check before we leave her go. But I need to get some more tools, I guess, to make this happen. All right, are you still there? Is this really worth it? I don't know. I'm saying it probably wasn't in perfect time all the years, you know. It was probably just where it was working, and so nobody ever looked into it any more than that. Come on. Come on. There we go. And you're going to say, well, you brought a ratcheting wrench. Why don't you use it? Well, this one doesn't work anymore. And I guess you can't, I don't know where you can warranty gear wrench at. Last time I went somewhere, they said you can't do that anymore, so I guess we're just gonna roll by hand, you know. But can I get enough? I don't know. Can I get enough? I feel like if I take this idler loose, I might be able to do that jump at a tooth trick again. Or not, you know. You don't have to. So it's gonna go that way. Which means I need to... It's right on top. In order to make this go, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this loose to start with. Drop that and lose it. That'll be real good. Not like it's brand new chain or nothing, but I am going to try, and there again I'll probably screw it up because I won't. Ooh, it's gonna argue with me. I'm gonna try to go. Oh, well, it did it on its own. It did what I was gonna do. So let's put this back in, and I'm gonna see if that went the wrong way. It looks like it went the wrong way. It did. It went the wrong way. So I'm not really understanding why it's fighting me. Let's try that. If I put that one in there, let's see what happens. All right, that's what we want. That other side is tight, but look what it's accomplished for us. Instead of 14 1/4, now we're at 15 1/4 or so, within just a hair's width. And it says to set the tooth at 15 1/4. It wants the ranges between 14 1/4 and 16 1/4, which is way out here. So we're right in the middle, which is where I want to be. So that is set now. All I got to do is put this back together and tighten this up. And then we're done setting the feeder. What a tedious process, but we got it exactly where we wanted it, so that's what we're after, you know. Need our screwdriver. We drop down. There. We'll reach out after we tighten her down, but we should be just fine. There shouldn't be much as we tighten the idler. There'll probably be some, but let's use the shorter wrench maybe. Is that what we want? Oh, we're ways away. There. That chain's tight. We're dropping tool left and right. Tighten this idler back. All right. So, are we still centered in the slot? Yes. What's our final measurement? 15 1/4. That's right where we want to be. So that feeder fork is timed. And I like that better because as we go around, I'm going to go around again. You wouldn't think an inch makes a big difference, but it does. Because now the feeder fork is already gone before you ever even see the tip of the plunger. And the other day it wasn't that way. I felt like it was too close. But if we go around now to the center one more time, center of the plunger face, the plunger face in that front slot, we're at 15 1/4, and that's what she needs to be. So now we got to go on to the knotter shaft. We're about out of battery, which means that was over an hour of footage just to do that. So I need to get another battery. And what we're going to do is we need to trip the knotter And then we are going to have to, all right, camera cut off, didn't realize it. I did end up having to change this a little bit. I probably wouldn't have had to because it was close enough, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you how you measure it. So trip the knotter, and then when it comes around on a compression stroke, what you're gonna look for is the needles are going to come flush with the top of the, there's a raised rib on that bale case down there at the bottom. You'll see in a second. We're getting there. Okay. Let's get where we're flush. I don't think we're... It's very hard to do this from the angle you have because you can't really get in there where you need to be. That's very, very close. Maybe just a shade more. We're trying to get the tips of the needles flush with this raised rib. Can you see that? All right, that's about as good as I can do. But you see this raised rib here? We're trying to get the needle pretty well flush with that. And then we're gonna measure our clearance, and they want it to be like 1 3/8. It should be between 1 inch and 1 inch and 2 1/4 inches, anywhere in there. And it says that would be satisfactory. So right now we're a little closer towards the inch, which is where it was before. And there again, I don't know that that's really what I want. It says it would be better to be between the 2 1/4 inches than it would be to be there, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I can disconnect that knotter chain again and back up the plunger a little bit. But what's probably happening is there's enough slop and everything from being wore that it's fighting me. And that's where we're at. If I take this loose, again, I had to take the whole shebang off here. You can't see what I'm talking about, but the idler's what I'm talking about. But I really think it needs to back up a little bit. And I can probably make that happen. What I'm going to do is just back the plunger up to wherever I think it needs to be. I'm going to go way back and then go back the other way to try to get... I'd like to see it like maybe 1.5 inches or so. That's getting pretty close right there. We'll put the chain back on, then we'll have to run it again through a cycle just to be sure that we really got it where it needs to be. Because I don't... This is the one that'll really bite you if you don't do a good job. Because it will break your needles if you aren't very smart about it. We're going to let it tie its cycle, finish its cycle, and then we'll do it again. Because we don't have a choice. We need to get our tape measure out of the way though, it's going to get smushed. All right, that's one cycle. I gotta get the string regulated here. Knotters don't like doing continuous knots without the string leaving, so that's also a problem. Without a bale, it just kind of twists up into a problem. There we go. Come on. Okay. Here's the grand finale. We're going to trip it one more time. You're going to die because you're dead. And when we get those needles flush, now it's super close. It's inch, and that's probably a little closer than I'd like it, but I don't know what to tell you. That's right at an inch. And I would rather have it, it says, the book says closer to 2 1/4, so I'll keep messing with this and I'll get it more better where I go, or want it. But I'm about out of time. I gotta leave today. It's ridiculous. I always have to leave for somebody else. So we're gonna have to call this part here. Whenever I get it, I'll show you. All right, well, I'm gonna call this video here. I got it between 1 3/8 and 1.5 inches. So we're gonna call that good. So this thing should totally be in time now, according to the book. Always check your book and always check adjustments if you've done anything, because if you don't, you will have sadness. But we're gonna call this one here. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.